Hello and good evening, everybody. Today we'll be talking about data science and everything related along with data science, be it the journey, how to start your journey from the scratch. Is it required to know coding? Is it required to know mathematics in order to become a data scientist? And everything will be covered by Mr. Paritosh over here, who is a senior data scientist at Uber. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and let us know about his journey first and how he has reached to where he is right now. Over to you, Mr. Paritosh.
Hello, thank you, Ranita, and hello everyone. I hope you can hear me clearly, and there are no audio or video issues. Before I get started, I wanted to welcome all of you in this session, and I hope you're as excited as I am to discuss, like Ranita mentioned, everything related to data science, being starting your career, be it figuring out the required skill sets, be it figuring out your journey and anything and everything related to data science. We'll keep this session open. By that, what I mean is there's limited content that I want to share, and but what I want to do is collaborate with everyone in this session to resolve your doubts, your queries, and figure out how can we kickstart your career in the field of data science and machine learning if you so choose to do it. Um, Having said that, before we start, the one critical thing I want to do is I want to fix the medium of communication. And I hope Ranita can help me out here. We just wanted to figure out if the audience prefers Hindi or English. Those are the two language choices that I have available. I don't know any other language, unfortunately. So if there's a preference, please type it in the chat, and we'll get a good understanding of should I communicate in Hindi or in English, so that everyone is familiar with and everyone is engaged on this topic. As I mentioned, I started with English, but I don't want to keep it too formal. The idea is to resolve your doubts. So yeah, I'll just wait for a minute or so to get that feedback. I hope everyone is typing it in the chat or if there's a poll, and then yeah, we'll move forward from there.
Yes. I can see a majority of them answering about English, and also if you could just be a little more louder because getting comments saying the volume is low.
Okay, okay, cool, cool. I don't think it's a mic issue. I think it's a volume issue from my side. So I'll try to speak louder. And given the feedback that we have, I'll continue to speak in English. Uh, Let me know if I need to pause somewhere. And like I said, because this is an open session, I would encourage everyone to ask questions as many as possible. We might not answer them immediately, but Ranita is keeping a close tab of all the questions that are being asked. And at some point in the session, be it midway, be it at the end, we will figure out the queries and we'll resolve them together. That's the whole idea behind the session as well. Yeah, I hope the volume is good enough, and with that, I'll start. Let me just share my screen. I guess I'll not keep too formal, but one second. Yes. Let me know if you can see my screen. Ranita, I look for feedback from your side. You can? Ranita, can you see
Just
the
a
screen?
second.
Okay.
I'm not able to.
How about the audience?
Your screen is not visible.
Okay. Ranita, if you have that slide by any chance, can you help me out? I've shared the link with you. If you
Yeah,
can share it.
just yes. I hope it's visible now.
Yeah. It's not visible to me, but I hope it's visible to the audience. I hope that's fine. Yeah. Let's move to slide two. I can work around it. Actually just three slides, so I can work with it. Let's move to slide two where we have the agenda. Yeah, and just let me know once you're on the slide.
Yes, I am on the slide, but I'm not sure if people are able to see. I'm getting comments saying they cannot see the slide, so
Okay, that's weird. Let me try once more. How about now?
still not visible.
It's weird. Okay. While Ranita figures it out, let me then start with the session itself. Ranita, should we wait for you to figure it out, or should we start
I
with the
think we
session?
should proceed. In the meantime, let me just figure it out.
Okay, cool, cool. Okay, so first of all, let's do a quick introduction. So I'm Paritosh. I currently, okay, I see you can, I can see your screen now. Or
Yes.
is it
Huh.
visible now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great, great. I am glad that we figured it out. Let me just put it on slideshow. Okay, so yeah, let's start. So I am Paritosh. I'm currently working as a senior data scientist with Uber. I have 10 plus years of experience in the field of data science and machine learning, with my experience split across services, consulting, and products. I'll talk, uh, I'll talk about my career journey in a little bit more detail. The idea is not to discuss my own personal journey, but the idea is to discuss what possible trajectories can people expect, or can you expect when if you choose to move into a data science and machine learning oriented role. So let me just outline the agenda so that everyone is clear. I'll take another first 15-20 minutes to figure out one. I'll talk about my journey, but the whole reason, like I said, I'll do that is to figure out what possible journey and career tracks can all of you expect. Second, I'll talk briefly about the tech stack for data science. I talk about what roles do I see really in the industry right now, and what are the tools and skill sets you need to have to be eligible for a certain role. I also went through the Newton School curriculum, and a lot of that is aligned with the different roles that we see in in the business right now. But yeah, like more on that later. And then finally, I especially reserved 20-25 minutes just for an open discussion. This is where we'll answer a lot of your queries, and so I would encourage all of you to post your questions, and we'll take that up as we move along. Right? Okay, so let's talk about my data science journey first. And before I expand on what other parallel streams are possible. Um, so, just talking about myself, I completed my bachelor's in technology from VIT University of Vellore quite some time back. So like I said, I have 10 years of on the field experience. So, yeah. Um, this is the time. The reason I wanted to call it my education here is one, you will see that there is no direct correlation between my education and the career I have pursued. Obviously, education system, it helps you get acquainted with different kinds of skill set. It helps you understand what's good for you. But my specialization was in electronics and communication engineering, which is not really a complete one-to-one with what I do on a day-to-day basis, right? So that should be a good enough starting point for everyone to understand there is no fixed degree, or there is no fixed route to start your career in the field of data science and machine learning. It's all about your enthusiasm and your ability to learn. That is what is completely required if you want to enter this field. The reason I am mentioning this is also because I want everyone to be enthusiastic about the whole space. The space was actually very, very new when I entered it close to 10 years back, but it is still evolving. The rate of development that you will see on a daily basis, um, it's really hard to catch up with that for anyone, be it a fresher or someone who's experienced. So what I would say is, don't keep your background, or don't think of your background, wherever whichever background you have, as a reason for to start or to not start this journey. If you're interested in this field, and will explore this in a lot in a detailed fashion, what this field really means. But if you are interested in this field, I would encourage you to start your journey. Yeah. Um, Next, right out of college, I joined Mu Sigma. It's a analytics and data science, decision science services company. My role there, actually, I started my role there as a business analyst, and I wasn't a pure play data scientist when I started my career right out of college. The thing here to highlight is, the one thing I'm really grateful for in this particular role is I was given the opportunity to do a lot more things than I was ready for. It has its own positive and negative aspects, but you get to work on a lot of bigger challenges. I work with a lot of US-based clients in this for retail in the space of merchandising and assortment planning. But keeping that bit aside, the key takeaways I want everyone to look at here is: one, I did not start my career outright as a data scientist, and there are multiple routes to become a data scientist. I started my career as a business analyst. I upskilled in this field of business analytics and statistics for close to 4 years. And I started my role as an individual contributor, so I was managing my own personal work. But by the time I spent 4 years in that particular company or in New Sigma, I was leading larger teams and ensuring that we deliver good quality work for our clients based out of different regions. That was, it's like a very brief description of how I would refer to my Mu Sigma stint. The thing here to highlight, and the thing I want everyone to note is, like I mentioned, there is no fixed route to start. I started my career as a business analyst. I was looking at different practices, and my focus was always on problem solving. Especially in these 4 years, my focus was on how do I solve business problems for my clients and upskill on any technology that comes in front of me. Some of the common tools that I used back then were SAS, which was used for data processing, SQL, and a little bit of R. And along with that, the main focus was on how do we answer the business questions, because that is what will determine a lot of, or that will help you extract a lot of value in your career journey, right? So that's the first stint. I spent quite some time there, little close to 4 years, and that's when I decided I wanted to make a switch. I wanted to move from a more services oriented role to a more consulting oriented role. The reason for that was, I had this knack that, one, uh, I'm good at working with people to solve their business problems, and I wanted to do that a little bit more closely rather than being separated in a separate offshore center. And that is where I made this transition to move into consulting, which is where I spent next 4 years of my career. So this is where I first I initially moved into Accenture, spent a little bit of time there, and then moved into BCG. Right now, while my whole intent of moving from services to consulting was primarily because, like I said, I wanted to work closely with the clients, and everyone in this group will have a different motivation to move into, say, a data science role, to move into a business analyst role, to move into different other roles, whichever you aspire for. The one thing that I noticed is that because I made a decision, conscious decision to move in a different field, in a different space, I was also upskilling myself in parallel. But that what I mean is, while my initial set of skills started from being a business analyst, where I was good at processing data, identifying the insights, but my roles in consulting also helped me develop skill sets related to predictive modeling and machine learning. So some of the common things that people in this group might have heard is, for example, how do you identify who are the customers who are going to churn or move away from the platform, or what is are the best set of products that you would want to recommend to someone, and so that you increase the chances that they buy the product, right? So something like a cross sell upsell. And there are multiple other use case segmenting the customers to identify the persona of people who are really engaging with your product or your client, right? So the types of use cases vary, but the core thing to understand is, because I made a conscious move to move from services to consulting, the one thing that I noticed is that I was also able to upskill, and I was also able to move in a more consulting role, where I was focusing on predictive modeling and machine learning. Natural impact of this is I was also working closely with clients. I was focusing more on, or I was working more on projects which were delivering more impact, and I was ensuring that I'm working closely with them to ensure that the impact delivery is sustained over a longer period of time. Right now, I will just take a quick break here, because again, while this is my journey, you will experience a different journey, and I really want to emphasize that you will experience a different journey if you choose to take the path in the field of machine learning and data science. And some of the key themes, but which you will still relate to if you enter this field, is one, because the field is evolving, the nature of your skill sets will evolve, and that essentially is never a barrier for you to enter. By that what I mean is, every time you would talk to your friends, every time you talk to your mentors, every time you talk to your people who are aware about this field, they'll tell you 10 things, 15 things which are relevant. So some people will focus on data processing, some people will focus on machine learning, someone will tell you chat GPT is the best thing they've ever seen, which is all true. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you want to enter this field, I would say pick one path which is most relevant for you, and on which you can focus and spend a lot of your time on. Some of the themes which I've seen in the Newton School course as well is, you can focus on mathematics fundamentals, you can focus on SQL, you can focus on data visualization, and I'll talk about those themes a little bit later as well. But I would say, rather than targeting 10 different items with different 10 different complexities, uh, f- build your own uh, ladder of where you want to start and where do you want to, or which is the end stage where you want to target, so that you can first focus on basic mathematics, you can first focus on SQL, and you can figure out if these are the right skill sets for you to enter the data science career track, either as a business analyst or as a data analyst or as a data scientist. There are multiple roles to choose from, right? The other thing that I also wanted to focus upon is, this is a very exciting time for the data science space. Now, why do I say that? One, the previous most exciting time was, I think, around 7 to 8 years back, when there was a big boom in data science. Everyone wanted to become a data scientist. But off late, now you will see that the applications of machine learning and artificial intelligence have exponentially grown. Chat GPT is, I think, something all of you are completely familiar with, but there are multiple other tools and platforms which are being extensively used by different um, companies to extract value from data. And that is where we see a big demand coming for data science. We see a big demand coming for machine learning engineers. We see a big demand even for business analysts and data analysts. So that is, we see a growth happening because everyone has become data mature. Everyone wants to use their data sets to identify insights into their way of functioning and operations. And second, everyone now understands that if they do not use artificial intelligence to extract more information, to engage more with their customers, or to optimize their processes, companies that don't end up doing that will be left behind. And that is where um, there's a big shift in this space wherein everyone should now focus on upskilling in business analytics, data science, and machine learning. That's the way to for the next 5 to 7 years, right? I hope um, I hope everyone is following this part of the journey. And then the one final thing before I open up the session for questions briefly is my final switch that I made into products. So after working in consulting, the one thing I still aspire to do was work on something end to end, because typically consultants, either a data science or a regular business consultant, they get to be involved in the initial or the latter phases of it, depending upon if they're a strategy or an implementation consultant. But I wanted to be involved to the bigger space of the data science journey and not just in a limited portion of it. Plus, I wanted to ensure that whatever I do, the impact is translated at scale. Now, what do I mean by that? Whenever in my services or consulting stints, the solutions that I was building, they were primarily focused on solving specific problems. So, for example, if your client asks you, why is my sales going down? Or if another client asks you, why are my customers not spending more? These are specific questions that you want to answer, and then you come up with specific reasons which are backed by data to answer these questions. However, if you move into a more product oriented role, these questions change. What you want to do is you want to increase the engagement of your customers, you want to reduce churn on your platform, you want to say identify an optimal way of onboarding your customers onto the platform, and that will require different level of applications. For example, this is where I was involved in a lot of NLP specific projects as well. So NLP, if everyone is not familiar with, the natural language processing, and that is the whole area where we are using text data and identifying patterns from text data so that we can either communicate with the customers or we can use the information to do multiple other lateral analytics cases or solve analytics cases. So that is one theme which I would again say which opened up because I wanted to make a conscious switch from consulting into products. I spent nearly 2 years in this space now, and this is something which I wish to pursue further as well. I initially moved into VMware, spent a little bit of time there, and then I moved into my current role at Uber, where my whole focus is on driving product data science for marketing tech products within Uber. Right now, before I talk about um, my journey specifically within Uber and what I focus upon, I would first want to understand if there are any open questions which we can answer right away.
So, Paritosh, I've seen a lot of people asking कि मैं मैकेनिकल इंजीनियरिंग से हूँ, मैं बीएससी फिजिक्स से हूँ, तो मैं क्या ये कर सकता हूँ, क्या मुझे ये जॉब मिलेगी? So, I think you have answered pretty much all of those questions, saying that anybody can take up data science as their stream if they are interested and if they are willing to put in work for it, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
There is no starting point for a data scientist or a business analyst. Even if you have a physics background or a mechanical engineering background or a chemical background, all you need to do is be comfortable with data. If you're not comfortable with data, let's figure out how you can become comfortable with data. There are a lot of possibilities to do that, and one of the forums is obviously Indian School. But yeah, there are multiple ways to do that, and there is no right or wrong degree to enter this field. Are there more questions?
I think we can move ahead with the next topic, and I think people are pretty much interested, and they want to know how does Uber function? How is data science related to Uber? And how are we getting all these suggestions? ये हो कैसे रहा है? How is that all possible?
Okay. Okay, I understand the inquisitiveness there. Okay, so let's talk about my journey within Uber. So to focus upon what are my day-to-day functions and which area of operation I'm focusing upon. Now, data science at Uber, it focuses on different functions. One, it focuses on the core product, which is where you see a lot of your push notifications on recommended offers. You will see data science being used a lot to identify the pricing on the engine. So how do you fix your pricing? How do you fix the surcharge that is applied because of heavy demand? That is where data science is also used. You see data science for route optimization. So suppose this is a popular use case which was being done earlier, wherein if you have a Uber pool or a Uber share, it's called an Uber X share now. But yeah, if you had an Uber pool, what's the best way to pick up customers on the way so that you minimize overall driving time and ensure that the riding experience is good? That is one of the use cases. These are all specific, like so pricing, route optimization, and your recommendation. These are all your core products and core product data science. I'm involved in the marketing product data science. The thing specifically that me and my team we focus upon is one, which set of offers are relevant for you. Second, uh, what's the lifetime value that we associate between a customer and their journey with Uber, so that we can understand how can we influence that lifetime value and increase that based on different offers and recommendations. Third, we have a lot of products that inherently manage communication. So to give you an order of scale, we handle more than 1 billion communications a day. This is spread across email, this is spread across SMS, WhatsApp, push, be it in app. So even if you open your app, you'll see a lot of different offers and recommendations, and that is where all the data science and machine learning is involved to identify the right offer for the right customer at the right time. That is the whole intersection on which we want to play, and that is the whole space on which we operate. Now, to deliver these kind of products and to deliver these kind of solutions, the tech stack which is being used is actually quite big. But the one thing and I'll talk about the tech stack in a lot of detail as well. But the one thing I want to do, I just want to set that expectation is that nothing is expected right when you start your journey. Nor did I have that skill set when I moved into the whole data science space. It's just that you typically build your skill set over time. The key theme which I will always insist to is pick one or two topics where you want to build your strength and then start from there rather than focusing on 10 different areas, right? So that actually brings me to the second part of this presentation. Let me just see if I can pull that up. I wanted to pick up now, for proprietary reasons, obviously I cannot talk about the exact tech stack which is being used in Uber. I hope everyone can relate to that. But what I wanted to do was talk about what are the areas where tech stack becomes important, and what are the typical tools and platforms that you will see to solve problems either in services, consulting, or products. And the ones which we typically pick is also something I'll highlight so that you can relate to what's happening here on the slide and what's actually happening in Uber as well. Yeah, I hope it makes sense. So typically a tech stack you will see is, and I think many of you would have seen something which goes from bottom to up, which talks about how do we extract data, how do we extract information, how do we extract insights, then build models and then deliver them to our customers. Now that, given the way the data science space has evolved, this whole space has itself changed. And now I don't personally look at it as a tech stack. I look at it as different portions or bubbles where you need to develop your deep expertise on. right? Now, what are these? Before I even talk about the tools and the different tools and platforms that you see within each bubble or cloud, the one thing I wanted to highlight was what are the different types of roles that you will see if you enter the data science space, because that is what varies from an individual to individual. Now, what do I mean? Let me expand on that. So, for example, some of the typical roles that you will see are business analysts, data analysts, data engineers, data scientists, machine learning engineers. Like, there are close to 5 to 6 roles which exist within this broader space of data science. Let me talk about each one of these roles, and then I'll also point to which set of tools do you really need for each one of those roles. So let's look at a business analyst or a data analyst. What are typical set of what are typical set of expectations from a data or a business analyst, and what tools will you primarily use, right? So let's say a data or a business analyst, the core focus for them is to solve business problems, identify the root cause for them, and that often will involve doing a lot of data processing, handling large amount of data to extract information and insights. And that is where you will see the bigger bubble will become the primary focus for them. They'll use a lot of Python, they'll use a lot of R and SQL and Jupyter. One, to extract information from different data sources, to roll it up in a certain fashion so that it can be consumed by different stakeholders, and third, use that information to translate that into business decisions, to identify what's relevant and what's the correct way based on the data, based on what is being communicated by the data set. Yeah. Now, I see a lot of now, because I hope or what I expect is that the audience here is entering this field. I see that there's a little bit of communication gap when we say that Python is the most important tool or R is the most important tool. For me, if you're looking as a data or a business analyst, the core focus is on how do you translate your data into findings and into business decisions. And that is where it's important that you are excited about Python or not. That's necessary, but it's also necessary that you're excited about problem solving, you're excited about understanding the business and understanding the fundamentals of the business, so that whatever you suggest based on data is factually correct and will also work in the longer period, right? So that's the core skill set behind a data and a business analyst. Any questions, or let me get to the flow once, and then we'll break for questions.
So we are getting a few questions asking what is the difference between a data scientist, a data analyst, and a business analyst. So probably you can pick that up once you're done with this.
Okay, cool, cool. No, that's good. That's good. The people are excited about understanding the role differences. To do that, let me actually talk about the data engineering space once, and then I think that will be a perfect place for me to switch into what's the difference between a data scientist and a business analyst. Now, if you're looking at a data engineering core skill set, that will involve one, handling larger amounts of data, their ingestion, and understanding how do you categorize the data sets into different schemas, ensure that it is low latency, such that people upstream, either business analysts or data scientists, can actually use your data effectively. The core qualities of a data engineering, one, this is compared to say a business analyst or a data scientist or a data analyst, this role is more software engineering heavy. So if there's something that if you feel that over a course of time you are interested in coding, data engineering becomes a good option within the whole data science space. And the second thing is, whatever you do, the volume of errors has to be really, really low, because if you're talking about production data sets, you really don't want to um, the quality rates have to be really high so that it's used by a broader audience. That is one. Second is the data availability should be really high. So the management of system, the management of backend, the management of infrastructure, that is where data engineering will also collaborate with a lot of other teams to ensure that once the data pipelines are generated, once the data is ingested, it's a high quality, always available pipeline that everyone can access within the org. And to ensure that the infrastructure is really working well, that is where a data engineering team will also coordinate with cloud DevOps. This is typically the tools where you see like AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud being used. This will be a separate team with which the data engineers will collaborate extensively to ensure that whatever pipelines are developed, the infrastructure is able to handle them, and the pipelines are maintained effectively, and there are no gaps in data processing. Right. Now let's tackle the question that is coming from the group. The difference between, say, a data analyst and a data scientist. Let's talk about the day-to-day of a data scientist. A data scientist as well will focus upon solving business problems, but one of the core differences that you'll see between a business analyst or a data analyst versus, say, a data scientist is, one, they will solve problems at scale. So whatever solutions you make, they have to be low latency. Second, a data scientist will also use a lot of statistics and machine learning to solve these problems. That is where they'll collaborate. That is where they'll use some of the tools on this side. So they'll use scikit-learn a lot. They'll use TensorFlow a lot, and they will identify patterns from data using machine learning techniques. So, like, to just give you some background, some of the typical use cases that you will see is, for example, you will use linear regression to identify the drivers of the sales of a store, or you will use logistic regression to identify if a customer is going to move away from a platform or not, or you will, say, use random forest in machine learning to identify what are the best set of offers that should be recommended, right? And there are different other possibilities, but that is where a data scientist, a true data scientist is somewhere a bridge between a data analyst and a machine learning engineer, wherein the data scientist will still focus on the business problems. It's not really engineering heavy, but you will focus on problems at scale, and you'll talk about and you will focus on the machine learning and statistics aspect of it as well, right? A data scientist will also use data visualization tools, because the stakeholders are not just limited to the stakeholders are not just the engineering teams, but they're also the business folks who are actually answering the business problems. And that is where you'll see a lot of the data scientists also use Tableau, Excel, pandas, or other tools to answer their questions, right? So yeah, so those are the themes that you will see, which are really differentiated between, say, a regular business analyst and, say, a regular data scientist. Although uh, these gaps, the way I explained it, they are quite fuzzy in different companies, in multiple, and this is true across multiple roles. Typically, a data scientist is expected to do some portion of a machine learning engineer role, some portion of a business analyst role, some portion of data visualization, because the whole goal is always on solving the problem. And that is where I mentioned that you can enter the whole field with one particular tool and one particular skill set, and you will obviously get upskilled as in when you get involved in different spaces, right? Finally, that moves into the machine learning engineer role, which, similar to data engineering, is again a very engineering heavy role. Uh, the focus here is on deploying all the models that are being built by data scientists. So you'll see a lot of the models being built to, one, say, identify which are the top 5 products that you see on a given web page when you, say, go to a Flipkart or a Walmart.com, or to identify um, what is the order of products is one, which are the best set of products that are relevant for you, that's second, what is the propensity for you to buy a particular product, that's third. So there are multiple use cases for which a model is built. The machine learning engineer will, one, deploy those models, second, maintain them over a longer period of time, and third, they'll also collaborate with data scientists to build their own models on the more unstructured data side. So a typical data scientist you will see is generally focused upon structured data or tabular data, the data that everyone is familiar with, which is being stored in data tables. But our machine learning engineers will also focus on a lot of unstructured data, such as text, such as voice, such as image. And although this is not a hard categorization, but you will see that a lot of MLEs are focusing on unstructured data as well. So that's the reason that I've quoted it as a cloud, all of these spaces, because there are no hard categorization between them. They often move into one another. Some roles will require some skill set for machine learning engineers, some for data scientists, some for business analysts. So you'll see a lot of these skill sets being used together when you enter your role and when you pick and choose your career in this field. Yeah. I hope that has answered the questions, and I would love to take more questions as we move forward.
Yes. So one question that I can see repeatedly is how much maths is involved in data science, and also how much coding is involved in data science. Also, a person with no coding experience, can they, become a data scientist?
Okay. Yes. I start with a simpler answer. The third one is yes. Uh, uh, a person who has no coding background can also become a data scientist. So that's not an entry barrier in any way or form. Um, let me now, having said that, let me break down each of these questions. So I heard something around maths. I heard around programming. Is there something else which I missed?
Yes. These are the ones: maths and programming.
Maths and programming. Okay. So you don't need to have a background in any of these to start, but yes, you need to continue learning, and which is where you will see a lot of the courses on the Newton School curriculum as well, which will help you start with this process. So you don't need to have a background, but you need to ensure that you have that knack, or you have that interest in the field of maths and statistics, and you also have an interest in the field of programming, because during the later phase of your career you will be required to code and program. Now, what's the level of proficiency that's expected? So let's talk about maths and statistics. If you start your journey, if you're familiar with the very basics of how an array works, that is a good, or how a matrix works, which is something we used to learn back in our school days. That's a good enough place to start, because all the data scientists, they start from scratch, they'll build on these concepts. And typically what you will see on the statistics side is people will upskill. When they learn, they focus on hypothesis testing, they focus on basics of linear and logistic regression, they focus on the very basics of machine learning, to get an idea and a flavor of what are the areas, or what are the skill sets required to solve problems in this field. So that's very specific to mathematics. When you talk about programming, if you do not have a programming background, that's not an entry barrier, just to re-emphasize. But if you want to start in this space, I would definitely encourage you to start with two tools, which is, one is Python and one is SQL. SQL actually is pretty easy to learn, and it will not require a lot of ramp up time. The other one is Python, wherein you should start with the basics. Just install Python on your local computer. Start with Anaconda. Use the Jupyter notebook. Run some very basic commands and calculations. And once you get a knack for that, or once you get a habit of that, it's only onwards and upwards from there. So yeah, those are the two things I would focus on.
So I think it is clear how to begin the journey of data science. So people who are interested can, begin right away with whatever Mr. Paritosh has, told us. So another question that I, have received from our viewers is, what are the type of projects, or where can they exactly find these projects to upskill themselves and, put it on their resume, and also have the practice of data science so that they are industry ready?
Okay. Okay, cool. So, and this is where I need a little bit of help from you, Ranita, as well. I believe there are a lot of capstone projects which are being executed by Newton School as well. But before I pass over the mic to Ranita, what I would, um, so one, if you want to practice projects, there is no better platform than Cackle. I would say, rather than entering a fresh competition, just focus upon Second, just focus upon picking an open competition from earlier, and try to solve the problem on your own. You will find out that when you're starting with the journey, you'll find that you're getting stuck in multiple places. That is where I would ask you to refer to the discussion board, the forums, but never copy paste the codes right away to start with the project, because that completely defeats the purpose. Right? So pick up a Kaggle project. You will find a lot of use cases related to finance. You'll find a lot of use cases related to retail. You'll find a lot of use cases related to simple regression models like linear and logistic. Pick up those data sets, identify what code needs to be written, what technique needs to be applied, and when you're doing that, focus on the why part of it as well. Why are you picking this up? So that it's not just a simple copy paste of a code, and when you're solving that particular project, you're able to understand why did you pick up a particular theme. So that is one. Apart from that, the other use cases that you will see is there are a lot of engineering blogs that really focus on the actual use cases which are being used in the data science space. For example, if you pick up the Netflix engineering blog, they'll talk about how are the recommendations being generated. That's a one very good space to identify. So once you get a good hang of what projects look like, you will get an understanding of how top tier teams actually implement data science in their own companies. So Netflix use cases is one. You'll find an Uber engineering blog as well. We have a very popular platform called 𝐏𝐴ngelo, and there are a lot of use cases being deployed on top of it. That is second. You'll find a lot of use cases. You can find a lot of use cases from standard consulting websites as well. So, um, for example, one of the things you'll find out is if you go to a McKinsey or a BCG or a Bain website, you'll find out those particular set of use cases, or you will find a lot of use cases on their website where they've used data science and analytics and machine learning to solve business problems for their clients. So the other three things, so just to reiterate and keep it simple, one is Kaggle, where you can practice it on live data set. Second are the engineering blogs from top tech and product companies. And third are the use cases that you will see on popular consulting websites or consulting company websites. For example, BCG or McKinsey or Accenture. You will find a lot of their use cases in those particular scenarios. Yeah.
So, Paritosh, you are working in Uber, and for anybody to get into companies like Uber, what are the set of interview questions that one must be prepared for, or what are the topics that one must be prepared during the interview rounds or during the testing technical rounds?
Correct. Correct. That's actually a good point. I forgot to cover that. So before I talk specifically about Uber, I want to talk about a general data science interview process as well, so that everyone in this group is familiar with that whole process, and they're not and they understand how will data science interview work, so that they are ready for it. So a typical data science interview process is split across 5 to 6 rounds. The first round focuses upon coding, which is a mix of Python, either Python or R, but most data scientists in today's age use Python. Second, it will be focusing on SQL, because a typical data scientist is also involved in extracting a lot of data to build their models and process findings and insights. So the first couple of rounds will focus on Python and SQL. That is one. That's your round one and two. Rounds three and four will focus upon solving the business problem. So, how do you use these machine learning techniques to answer whether a driver is churning or not, or why is a customer not spending more on your platform, or what's the best way to determine the route? So, all of these use cases, how do you identify the best technique and apply them to solve these use cases? That is one of the rounds. Say that is round three. Round four is a more system design round. That is where you ensure that whatever solutions you are recommending, can you apply them at scale? How will you collaborate with different teams to ensure that whatever recommendations are passed, they hold true over time? Because typically what we see is that some recommendations are not, some models don't hold true over a longer period of time. So those are the things which will be evaluated in round four, and then round five and round six are more on the softer side. I'm sorry, um, they're more on the softer side. So that is where you coordinate with the project managers, the senior managers on the data science to understand how will you fit in the team, and lastly you'll also have a bar raiser, which will ensure that the whole experience of the interview process and you joining the company to ensure that the bar of the company is raised. So those are 5 to 6 rounds that you can typically expect if you interview for a data science role, apart from a few introduction and calls with the HR.
Well, that was great knowing about the interview experience, and I hope all our viewers have found it helpful. So, another question, Paritosh, a very important question that I must say: what is the salary expectation at a entry level or a mid level at a senior level? Also, what do you think the future holds for data scientists?
Yes. Okay. Let me answer the second question first. Um, the future of a data scientist is, um, like I said at the start of the call, and again just to re-emphasize, the scope of data science use cases is really expanding. So over the course of next 5 to 7 years, the field of AI, ML, and data science will really grow, because a lot of companies, almost all companies, will want to use these uh, tools and techniques in these domains, AI, ML, and data science, to extract value from the data and optimize their processes. Um, I'm sure audience would have already noticed that companies are using ChatGPT, or they're taking the business license of ChatGPT to onboard their own personal use cases. For example, Uber themselves, we are also using um, large language models to ensure that we have a good communication experience with our customers before they're onboarded to a support agent. So there are multiple use cases for these platforms, and this space will grow exponentially over the course of next 5 to 7 years. So it's the future is really bright, if I have to answer it shortly. Um, Now coming to the salary part, I think that's, like you mentioned, the most important question, which all new grads and freshers will have. Um, for an entry level role, I would say anywhere. So there is no hard upper cap, and the numbers can go as big as you can imagine. To be honest, but I would put a typical range of around 7 to 10 to start. And like I said, these are just average ranges, and you can expect a lot more once you move forward.
Well, that would be a great start for anybody who's venturing into this field, be it from technical or non-technical background, because a lot of people were also saying I'm from arts background. So yeah, all of you can become data scientists and can, earn a good amount. Also, when we talk about AI ML, so there's one controversial question that always comes up that says ki AI is going to take away jobs of a lot of people. So, do you think is that true, or is it the opposite of that?
The shorter answer to this is AI will take over jobs of those folks who are not tuned to working with AI, or who are not willing to work with AI. I think that is the bigger point. um, like if you look at the last 15, 20 years or 30 years of space, the nature of jobs have evolved significantly. 30 years back, when we used to talk to our elders, no one was using a computer extensively to solve their day-to-day problems. 15 years back, no one was using the internet extensively to solve the problem. But people who onboard onto these platforms, be it a normal computer or using Google search engine to solve your queries, or now using ChatGPT to write code more efficiently, those are the ones who will be left behind. I don't think AI will replace jobs or AI will replace people. That's not going to happen. It's just that we need to be ready to acknowledge the value which is being brought from AI and use that on our day-to-day activities, so that we remain relevant in our roles. That's what I think.
Well, thanks for clearing that out because we had a lot of doubts regarding that. Uh, So yeah, the forum is open to questions. All the viewers, if you have any more questions, please pour them in. And we have also attached a form. It is just a feedback form to understand how the session was, and if you are willing to, have such more sessions in the future as well. So please do fill up the form and let us know your feedback. In the meantime, if there's any more questions that you want to ask Mr. Paritosh, please go ahead. So, Paritosh, there was another question that says, how long does it take to become a data scientist, or what is the tenure for learning all the things that you have mentioned earlier?
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I would say just to start with that whole process, 6 months is good. Just to start with the process, and there is no end game for learning. So I would never put an upper cap to any of these discussions. But I think a typical 3 to 6 months phase is good enough for you to start your journey in this particular phase, in this particular space, and then tackle the challenges when you enter your new job.
So, there's one question: which is the most in-demand tool in ML, and it can be applied to other streams as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, in the data science and ML space, Python is being used extensively. So is Spark. These are the two that you will see are being used by more data scientists and machine learning engineers. So Python and Spark are the ones that you will see really being used in a lot of places. Scala is one which was being adopted quite quickly some time back, but that the adoption trend is not that really high. So if you're just looking in the data science and machine learning space, Python is obviously one of them, and the other on the data engineering side, if you have to, because all data scientists or machine learning engineers or business analysts have to pull data, SQL is a necessity without emphasizing enough.
Also, is it possible to learn all these skills online or maybe through free courses?
um, it is possible to learn them online. The one thing I would insist, and the one thing which is really required, is to get a structured approach to solving these to solving or to tracking these skill sets. Because I don't want a new graduate or a new or a fresher to start on machine learning from day one. Build your fundamentals from mathematics, build your fundamentals on basics of hypothesis testing, use SQL to pull data, use visualization tools to show your findings and insights before you go into the machine learning track. That's how I would encourage everyone to do it, so that you have a solid foundational base, and that is where you need a strong curriculum to support your learning.
Well, another question was that can industry exposure in instructors or mentors help us gain these skills at an early stage or a faster pace?
Uh, I believe yes. The answer to that is yes, uh, because the thing which happens is when you are coordinating with industry experts or folks who have actually delivered this particular or who have actually delivered a particular use case using statistics and machine learning, they know the places where an additional emphasis is required. They'll know the typical places where a fresher might fail if things are not executed correctly. So you'll get that experience, you'll get the value of that experience while you're learning your data science course, and you will not focus on everything or anything under the sun. You will focus on items that, or the priorities will be set for you based on what is relevant in that particular data science and ML space. That is where having an industry expert is really helpful.
Thanks for answering that. Also, is there, a requirement of a certification or a degree in order to, become a data scientist? Does that add value, or just the free courses are enough?
I believe certifications and courses add value. Um, the most important skill that a data scientist will bring is their own herself or himself. The enthusiasm they have about problem solving, the enthusiasm they have about statistics and machine learning, that's the most important certification or skill set that will bring to an interview. Other things are really useful as well when you're involved in the interview process.
All right. So, dear viewers, do you have any other questions for Mr. Paritosh? He's all here and he's going to answer everything that you have. We have another question which says, how important is DSA in data science?
Uh, I'm hoping you're talking about data structures and algorithms. So
Yes.
DSA, for everyone in this group who are not familiar with it, is data structures and algorithms. That's not a core criteria for a data scientist. That is mostly used in interview processes on the software engineering side, and that's not a primary criteria for data scientists. That's how I would put it.
Okay, so that was great. Thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking to all of us. I hope all our viewers have resolved their queries and have gained a lot of information from your skill set. Also, Newton School has launched its own data science certification course. So if you are looking to upskill yourself with top industry experts and industry level projects, do fill in the application form which is given in the description box. Also, thanks once again, Paritosh, for joining us today. It was lovely having you over here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.